Welcome, everyone, to the third day of Conscious Life Expo. Has it been amazing? Gone to the next level this year. And what's been also amazing is the Down the Rabbit Hole track. It's kept up with what we need to know and what's coming through at this unprecedented time. So I want to thank Brandy Well, who it was her brainchild, to bring all these incredible speakers, these truth heroes, to the Conscious Life Expo. And I know you're here because you understand the vastness of all that's going on. Yay, Brandy! And I don't know if this speaker needs any introduction. You know, you're here because you've heard him speak loud and clear during these whole 3 years, especially to keep the truth forefront, beyond all the challenges that the truth heroes have had to go through to keep the truth out there, all the backlash, all the censorship, all that kind of stuff. But they are here, they are warriors, and I call Sacha Stone really a warrior of truth. And what's great about him is he understands the bigger picture. He's really a high-level spiritual being, but he's boots on the ground. He's also making it happen. He's an activist, sacred activist. He works with human rights and socialism and all that needs to happen in the 3D world. But then he's got the vision for the new earth of what we're going through. He's created organizations. He is vocal on many fronts. And he's creating an organization that shows us where we're going in the new earth, what solutions are there, and where we're going to. So we have a template, and we know where we're going to build the new earth together. So we are very grateful to have him come all the way from where he is in the universe and be with us today and share his wisdom, his light, and his love. Sacha Stone.
Friends, countrymen, nice to see you. Very, very happy to see you. Not that chuffed about being up at 10 o'clock in the fucking morning. I've just found out from Brandy, she says that she used me as bait. Put me on at 10 o'clock in the morning. It seems to have worked. I'm really happy to see so many faces. I thought maybe 12 of you would be brave enough to get up at this time of day. But thank you for that. I'm going to try and do something nigh on impossible. I've done a lot of public speaking over the last 10, 12 odd years. And I'm going to try and do something today that really is very ill-advised. No public speaker would ever attempt it, but fuck it. I'm going to try and take you on a journey in the first 45 minutes. It's going to be rapid fire. And I've got a lot of slides. Look at them. Watch them closely. I think there's some things here that you've never seen before in your lives, and pretty shocking at that, some of it. I hope that that's the case. Who's the gentleman at the back there just came up to me quite rightly. Thank you for that, a bit of data, and told me that lights in the sky, friends. I've been warning about this since COVID broke out. On the eve of COVID, Robert David Steele phoned me up and said, Sacha, what the fuck's going on? And I said, well, let's do a drop. And we did a drop. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning for me in Bali. And I remember sort of bleary-eyed going on to his show. And he was asking me for a prognosis on what was actually about to happen with this COVID-idiocy thing. This was when the lockdown was just kicking in. And we all smelt that there was a dragnet, right, moving in on us, right? And I was at my palace in Bali living it up, and I said to Robert, I said, I don't know what this is, other than the fact that 6 months ago, I did launch the World Health Sovereignty Summit in Bali, and I did bring Del Bigtree and many of the great icons in health sovereignty together in Bali. And I also staged a international tribunal on the weaponization of the biosphere, set up the full court with police protection and the protection of the good royals in that part of the world. I'll show you some pictures. And I knew 6 months before, as did a few of us, that something was coming down the pike. And that's why I did the World Health Sovereignty Summit at the NewEarth Festival. Nonetheless, what I said to Robert David Steele that evening was, Robert, this is about lights in the sky. COVID is a setup towards, it's a springboard toward this hyperdimensional, subdimensional, ultradimensional, intradimensional reality that is going to become the great revelation of humanity. So Cosmogenesis to NewEarth. This is the story that we need to get to grips with, as uncomfortable as it may be for the churchish mind. And I don't imagine that there are many amongst you. Hello, my darling, good to see that face. I don't imagine there's many amongst you that inhabit the churchish mind. You wouldn't be in this room with me. We are all the irreverents here, I hope. But we are galactic hybrids. We are made up of... I spoke to one of the world's greatest cultural anthropologists almost 20 years ago. A brilliant, brilliant man who speaks 26 languages. And I asked him a question. I said, well, you're the go-to man that I'm told who knows more about cultural anthropology and the genesis of humanity than anyone alive. What's the truth about the ET thing? He said, oh, well, we've identified about 26 different extraterrestrial intelligences that make up the human genome. I said, right, got it, thank you. But that is the story, okay? We are all of us galactic hybrids. Let's breathe that into ourselves right here, right now. Breathe it in. Homo sapiens sapien is spectacular. Our genetic pool is unbelievable. We are the immanent flame of the cosmos. Don't ever forget it. The Great Fall is a bullshit psyop, okay? We've never had a great fall. We took a great backward leap into the void because we're so fucking courageous, okay? Each one of us. That's what we did. But the trial of separation befell, third-party intervention, I call it the Catholic Church. That's the thing that came in to really, tamper with our divinity. Enter religious dominion. That's the problem, okay? The religious dominion, okay? That was the corporatizing, in the sense of spirit, which then was flipped into time, money, and fear. Don't start me on the clock. I could talk an hour and a half just on that piece alone, but I don't have the time here. Usury and exploitation follows time, money, and fear, right? Okay, nice trick. Doomsday, 1066. They had it down. The Egregor was working overtime. They started bonding souls, taking names and numbers and addresses and church bands, and started to take down data. Okay, the church began that process. All right? You wonder why we're securitized and monetized today? Go back to Doomsday, 1066, bonded souls. Government naturally emerges off that theater. Govern, control, ment, mind. Eyes wide shut, baby, it's in your face. Government is a mind control technology by its own definition. What does government do? It delivers a trifecta of war, disease, and poverty, and fuck all else. It does not give anything else to human beings. Nothing. Nothing. You do not need controlling. You do not need hurting. You do not need any orchestration of your sentient divine flame. The harvest of humanity is what war, disease, and poverty equate to. It's called bad dreaming, and we've done this, people, to our babies. Look at it. Many of you did it. Okay? Just acknowledge it. Acknowledge it. Did you scream when you were told to do this? Did you run into those classrooms and grab your kids by the ankles and pull them out? No? Shame on you, lady. Good, some of you did. Okay, I'm not trying to berate anyone. I'm just saying, let's own it. Let's all own the piece. Okay? All right. Enter the Sabbateans. Ignatius Loyola. Look him up, study that son of a bitch. All right, Adam Weishaupt, Albert Pike. These are some of the Babylonian priesthoods of old. James Brown is not a Babylonian priest, but he did define that it is a man's world, alas. The imperial bedchamber protocol, again, I could talk just about that. About how the Jesuits, very smart. You want to know how the CIA ended up with a dragnet over humanity today? How the deep state apparatus emerged? It emerged because of Ignatius Loyola, leading his caravan one day on the side of the road and going, people, I need to be alone. I have a revelation coming. And he went into a field. He stopped the caravan of horses and wagons, and he went into a field. He came back hours later, a changed being. And he weaponized Christianity. Weaponized the message of Christ. Okay? Weaponization of all faith followed. The Vatican complex has managed to sequester all religions into the same technology. Council of Nicaea, 325, 328 AD, was really the weaponization of Christianity proper. That was the end of the imperial dominion of the old Roman Empire. And that then franchised itself, packaged itself up, stole the message of Jesus, the man that they'd crucified, and decided to totemize him as the center of their new empire. Okay? And so the ones that massacred the Christians, the Cathars and the Essenes, became the genesis point of today's evil and witchery in the world, government. Okay? Illuminati, CIA, harvest of humanity. Bad spelling, sorry about that. Okay. All roads lead to Rome. Yes, they do. There's the Council of Nicaea. That's Caesar Borgia on the right. That's the Jesus that we look at today. His depiction was taken off a Borgia, one of the members of the black nobility. Jesus was a hook-nosed little dark-skinned Sabbatean with crooked teeth and a hunchback by best accounts. And I'm not joking. I'm being serious. No problem with that. I got no problem with that at all. Love the man. Okay? But just don't buy into this iconoclastic bullshit, because he did not look like that. The ultimate sacrilege, people. The ultimate sacrilege. Or devotion. Can't quite decide which. Well, the Catholic Church have sold us... yeah. They've sold us that, all right? Defiling the Virgin Mother, rape of Gaia. It's all written into the totemism of the Catholic Church. You're looking at a pussy. Sorry, guys. And nothing wrong with that. I could spend a lifetime looking at it, but it's not the point. Not the point, okay? This is how Kundalini is flipped. This is how the mind control program has been installed. It's meta-civilizational programming. Meta. There are archonic forces and elemental cloud intelligences that govern the so-called archonic realms, that govern the so-called dominion of the demon realms before they even come in to the temporal plane and start to demonically possess human beings and get them to roll their sleeves up for vaccines. Okay? And we're all of us subject to angelic and demonic intervention, are we not? Every single one of us wrestle with our demons, right? If not, we're a liar. Yeah. And yet, we're here today. And there's the Christed flame that brings us together today. All of us. God bless you all. Source coding the kingdom of the devil. It's all in that. If there's one photograph to me that I could lecture on for 5 hours, it's this image. Because this image says everything we need to learn about the dystopia we find ourselves in. The stainless steel blade. That is witchery at large in the hands of a blessed black African. Inversion of Kundalini. Let's cut off clitorises, shall we? Let's cut off foreskins, shall we? Let's get to the source code of the bliss peak wave of blessed human beings and cut that off at the root. Yes, indeed. Let's do that to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of souls. Do you have any idea what the unfathomable amount of hyperdimensional trauma energy that goes into the field and locks us into the matrix that we blame? We are the matrix. We manifest the matrix by permissioning this stuff. Look at that woman's face, her mother. Look at her. She's delighted, never felt happier. And this is a travesty. This is an abomination. I'm a student, a scholar of Islam. I've studied all the schools. Hanafi, Hanbali, Maliki, Shafi. 20 years ago, I was a student, and I love Islam, the mystical traditions of Islam. I love the mystical traditions of Christianity, and I love the mystical traditions of Judaism. All the faiths, in point of fact. This is not religion. This is not faith. Okay? It's an abomination. It's an abomination. Inversion of Kundalini, how we pornographicize our babes, and how we find that socially and culturally acceptable. And yes, it started with little choristers, choir boys, and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and all that mind control cult programming bullshit that we allowed to creep in. Emphasis the 1950s onwards. Okay, end of the Second World War, when the whole world was in a state of PTSD, the Fabianists, Tavistock Institute and others started to install the software, the program. It was very brilliantly conceived, and pedophiles like Baden Powell and others came along, Walt Disney and so on, and did the work, the big psyop. Behold the Egregor, there is the temporal kin, ruler, icon of the Roman Catholic Church. The massacre of innocents, of billions of souls over millennia has gone into this desecration, this godless abomination. That throne, and behind it is the embodiment of the reptile. That is a draconian reptile. We know, we've studied it inside out. I was studying this 15 years ago. That is a reptile skull that's made to look like the windswept hair of the Master Jesus. I think not. Okay, eyes wide shut, baby. It's in front of us. It's always been in front of us. The question is, are you watching? Can you see? Are you in a state of witness, or are you in a dream spell? The Mercator map deception. Again, if there's one slide I could lecture on for 5 hours, it would probably be this one, because the Mercator map perfectly describes dystopia, psycho-cultural, psycho-civilizational dystopia. The real map looks like the green. The false map, the Mercator one, is the black outline. Africa is twice the size that we're given to believe. America is about 1/3 of the size we're given to believe it is. I'm sorry to tell you folks, okay? No hard feelings against you guys. I don't travel anywhere in the world without this, without my flag, and I wear that for good reason, and it's getting old and moth-eaten, and it's my prized possession, and there's a reason for it. The harvest of innocence is what springboards off the Mercator map. Look at that. You can fit China, Russia, America, the whole of Europe, and other parts of the world, India. And most of the world can actually fit into Africa. Can you believe it? The church and the state were never separated, friends. That was a lie. They were never separate. The church and the state is exactly the same thing, the same quanta. And again, it's govern, control, ment, and mind. The harvest of innocence goes back to the papal bulls, the doctrine of discovery. This is part of special research that I've been involved in since 2007, and I've not yet done my disclosures on what I've found out, and it's shattering. It is shattering. What I can tell you is that in 1519, the 9 hell cycles began. This is well known, ending 468 years later in 1987. 16th of August 1987. Anyone remember what that date is? Yes? Thank you. God bless you, Stessa. The start of the 9 hell cycles was the day that Hernan Cortés landed in Mexico. Okay? This was not happenstance. April 22nd, 1519 was the day the 9 hell cycles opened up. They closed on the day 16th of August, 1987, that my beloved, belated friend and mentor, Jose Arguelles, called. He decoded the long count Tzolk'in. Whoops. There we go. There he is. Him and me, years ago in Bali. He came to stay with me for a month, not long before he died. And it imparted to me a great deal of wisdom about the moon and about the law of time, which I passed on to other researchers over the years. The closing of the 9 gates of hell, August 16th, 1987, the harmonic convergence, the day that millions of First Nation peoples in Papua New Guinea, in Zimbabwe, in the Kalahari Desert, all around the world, a phenomenon occurred on that day. How many of you remember it? Okay, in the West, we didn't really see it, but the First Nation peoples, they stood up, Central Sun, on that day and saluted the skies. All of them. They were all connected through the typhonic, psionic consciousness, the real intelligence. And they knew that the 9 gates of hell were closing on that day. That was the blessed beginning of the emergence. And we'll get back to that. Check this out. I've got no audio. Brandy? If you get tech down here, because I'll need the audio shortly. Is Brandy here? Oh, thank you. Yeah, but take a look at this, guys. I mean, feeding grain to the poor. Vietnam. Oh, look how delighted they are, the ladies. Thank you. I show you this because this epitomizes all that is wrong, all that's broken in the world. You want to meet a real psychopath, a real living psychopath? Look no further than King Leopold. If you want to know what underwrites Brussels and the European Central Bank and the European Union today, the Commonwealth of most of the Western world, look no further. This is what he did in order to become the European Union, Brussels today, which is center stage of the globalist agenda. Davos is a franchise of that. The Bank of International Settlements, the IMF, the IFC, the World Bank, they are all part of the franchise of this devilishness. 10 million souls. There they're hanging a little 7-year-old kid in the Congo. Look at his face. I call this son of a bitch the Sultan of Swing. People don't talk about him. History books lie. Worse than Stalin, worse than all of them. The Belgian kickback, that's today. That's today, okay? And we find this completely acceptable. And it graces the cover of Time magazine and Newsweek and BBC and CNN. And we put up with this cult programming bullshit. We're looking at ritual sacrifice of innocence, the harvest of humanity. And it's front page every day. Colonialism 2.0. This is the Congo, baby. This is where every one of your mobile phones is contingent and dependent on this harvest of humanity. Watch. This is what is in the Congo today. They have discovered free energy. They've got billions of tons of it underground. They're pulling it up. What does it do? It's dielectric and paramagnetic. It is a free energy technology. It's a rock. Boom. Look at that. They're not going to show you that anytime soon. The EU genocide, or eugenocide. Hands. That blessed man in the middle is holding a clutch of dried up hands of his family. They used to have to walk around with the shriveled up hands of their compadres, and they were used as a currency by the colonialists, the Belgians, the people who are the progenitors of Brussels and the European Union today, and Davos in Switzerland, yes? This is real. They hacked off millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of hands. The eugenics agenda today, George Soros, Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, they're the most tawdry, low-frequency icons. They're easy targets for us. Okay, I don't pay too much attention to these creatures. They are not the Babylonian priests. They are proxies. They are subhumans. They're lost to themselves. I send blessings in their directions, and I'll tell you why momentarily. But eugenics and genetics is the target. That's the target. It's what's going on inside your blood, right here, right now. That's the target. It's always been the target. They've just refined their lens and their focus and the weaponry. Enter the parasite, and that's no joke. You are looking at a draconian reptile in human flesh there with this particular creature, Rockefeller. And there have been a great many of them subsequent to his generation. But all of the sacrifice of innocence comes in, and these archetypes manifest in the mortal spheres, quite naturally and quite necessarily. The New World Order, I'm too blind, I'll have to try to read that. Maybe I won't bother. But the bottom line is, many of you will know this, or some of you, written in 1989, And this is an excerpt from Ralph Emerson's book. And it was all laid out clearly, exactly what is going to be taking place today. It's all there. Okay? Again, eyes wide shut. What did he know? When did he know it? And why did he know it? The weaponization of public health is, as I said, the critical focus. That's the drag net in order to make its way to the atom seed of the human, angelic human, which is the human genetic, okay? Trust me, it's the angelic human that is being hacked right now, baby. That's you and me. Almost, I would imagine every one of us are very connected to that. I'm not seeing any, I've seen auras since I was born, and I'm not seeing any dark auras in this room, which is actually remarkable, I have to say. Remarkable. Well, I don't know about that. Now the ego's flaming and you just lost it. Yeah. So the archetypes, the reason why I don't get angered by these creatures, the Faucis and the Schwabs and this cross-dressing criminal in the middle. Did you see that footage of him? You've seen it? Oh my God! In ladies lingerie at a rave. Magnificent, and he heads up World Health, right? Disgusting, disgusting. I mean, I'm all for, you know, people doing their own thing, but really, he took it too far. Bottom line is, they're Zen masters, and if we start to see them not as these crazy, dark-hearted archetypes, but start to recognize that they only manifest in the field in diametric proportion to the degree to which you and I find a vacuum within. If we fail to embody our perfect human angelic seeding, we necessarily and naturally project shadows, so-called shadow elements, or the vacuum into the field, and the archetype will emerge in order to create the contrast to define our light against. Okay, I know it's a bit wordy. I'll get back to that when I close. I'll try. Okay, it's still 10:30 in the morning. The persecution of a molecule. There's my beloved friend, Jim Humble, who I adore. And I've spent good time with this class act. Right. Love you, Jim. I know you'll be watching this when it gets put out. So here he is in Bali. I brought him out there on the eve of COVID to give his testimony to the International Tribunal. That's the film I made about him. A Humble Journey, which has been taken down more times than it's been put up. It just keeps getting taken down. But it's a fantastic film, and I'm so blessed to have been able to spend the time with him to make that film. And I urge you, if you can find it online, watch it. I'll try and get it onto our secure servers. But the persecution of a molecule, the MMS, you know, the chlorine dioxide, that epitomizes the Saturnian logic behind global health. How many doctors in the room? Health practitioners, doctors. Not MDs. No, that's not a doctor. Right, okay, we've got a dozen. Do you all know about chlorine dioxide? Right, there we go. Gandalf the wizard fucks up, and boy, did he fuck up. That's Sir Ian McKellen, one of the greatest Shakespearean actors in the world today. Love the man. And he says we all have a part to play in the fight as he rolls up his sleeve. Now, I'm showing this not to berate Sir Ian, who's a delightful actor, thespian, of magnificent thespian. But it's to show how our most revered icons are weaponized against us. Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. I'd say so, Paul, if indeed you got that satanic molecules into your arm and the graphene oxide. I'd say your problems are just beginning right now. And I think it's tragic that these icons fall victim to it. I'm no celebrity, but I was certainly approached when I was in rock and roll, and I was, you know, being set up to be something of an icon. And I saw how, because I've moved in those circles for over two and a half decades, celebrity and royalty and all that bullshit, and I've seen how good people in Hollywood, good people in the portals of fame and rock and roll and what have you, and royals and so on, get co-opted into this, and they're good people, most of them, almost all of them, and it's a tragedy. Paul McCartney saying, "Be cool, get vaxxed." Those are 4 words that will haunt him when he's at St. Peter's Gate, you know, because he'll have to reflect on the part he played. This is classic generational Luciferian iconoclasticism. Elvis Presley did it back in the 50s. She did it recently, I believe, bless her heart. I mean, I think it is... linking cardiac arrest and COVID-19 vaccine is wildly and irresponsibly speculative, says experts. Okay. The voice of God. Who doesn't love Morgan Freeman, for God's sake? When that man speaks, everything makes sense, you know, and it's a beautiful thing. And he spent a whole lifetime being that archetype. That's who he is. He's a good man. He's not one of them. He's also a fucking idiot. I mean... If you trust me, you'll get the vaccine. I do not trust you, God, any longer. The ultimate dissonance is abdication of health sovereignty. I'll say it again. The ultimate dissonance, friends, is your abnegation or abdication of your human health sovereignty. Okay? That's the line that does not get crossed by the church or by the state or by a flunky in a white coat. No one crosses that line into your blood. No one. And how many people have ended up disfigured, maimed, murdered by public health and by the mainstream allopathic medical fraternity? Okay? 100 years, courtesy of Rockefeller, the Rockefeller Covenant, as I call it, which was the weaponization of anything and everything that's natural and the implementation of synthetic molecules. False idols, classic. I mean, my favorite Chucky doll here, ghastly little creature. And I understand that in California, one has to be very careful speaking against her walking down the streets. But she is what she is. She's a sock puppet and a tragic comic icon of our times. The not such bad guys, apparently also not too cool to speak in California in any way pro Gaddafi or Hussein or Putin or Bin Laden. Forget Bin Laden for the moment. But the point I'm making here, I know a great deal about Russia. I've been to Russia half a dozen times. I knew Boris Berezovsky, the man who created Vladimir Putin. I knew him well. I know the story, the real story of the takedown of the Romanov dynasty. I know how Wall Street sponsored that. I know how the crowns of Europe were Wall Street sponsoring the collapse of the Romanov dynasty, the eradication of the Tartarian Empire. The real blood of ages, the real golden age, was taken down with the collapse of the Romanov dynasty, which was then franchised again by Wall Street, thanks New York, to Maoism in China. China. Yeah. We manufactured China. We manufactured the CCP. The great big threat is our gift to the blessed sons and daughters of God in China. Millions of them, hundreds of millions of them. Gaddafi is a Disney character, but I'll tell you what, he was one fearless leader, and he was a tremendous human being. A tremendous human being. If you know what he actually delivered unto his people, a man of his day, of his time. Read the Green Book. I was reading it 17, 18 years ago when I was on my way to go and meet him in the desert. I just wanted a pair of his shades. I wanted to just get a pair of his shades, and I thought, if I get to meet Bob Dylan before I die and get a pair of Gaddafi sunglasses, I'm a happy camper. That's all I wanted. I was not allowed to meet him. I was en route to meet him. I had everything set up, and I was the one of the royal families in the Middle East kindly summoned me, and I had to go for a meeting. And they said, "We're not letting you go to Malta to catch your connection on to Tripoli." And I said, "I've spent a year and a half setting this up. Are you kidding?" I was told, if you want to meet him, you've got to prepare to be in the desert for 3 months, because you don't know when you're going to be pulled out of your little hotel and then taken into the desert to the goat hair tent where he lived. But I was, unfortunately, that was derailed. And that was because that was on the eve of the Lockerbie bombing revelations, and that was just about to come out, and the whole weaponizing of the West against Libya was about to happen. And my friends in the royal family I'm referring to didn't want me to be caught up in Tripoli. But I regret not having gone. Good science versus black magic, okay? Don't have time to go into this right now, but bad science ended up with this, all right? That's all you need to know. Pacific Atoll testings, and then, of course, bada boom. The big one, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Oppenheimer seems to have a very Pacific aspect of soul, as did Albert Einstein. The two guys were, one imagines, co-opted. I don't imagine they were evil guys, but they certainly gave birth to great evil. He had at least the heart to state after the bomb, a few people laughed, a few people cried, most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. This is what they're trying to do to us.
Grasshoppers. I recommend them to anyone.
Dinner.
This is genetic intervention.
It's actually really good, the flavor.
That's why they want you to eat powdered
A
insects.
teriyaki marinated.
Oh, she's doing it.
This is a powder derived from the mealworm, and it's a insect protein just been approved by the EU. If we make this switch, it's huge.
I dare say. Check this out. Self-replicating nanodiodes growing in your bodies, courtesy of Monsanto. Aluminium in the geoengineering. Fluoride in the world's water supply. That's why shit's growing inside your bodies. Neural pathways. This is the artificialization of humankind. It's happening in real time. It's happening whilst we're sitting in this room. This is an excerpt from the Lazarus Initiative, a symposium which I stage once a month. But I've worked closely with Ilana Freeland and Harold Katzvela and other great experts in uncovering this phenomenon, because this is the real stuff, the genetic intervention that's happening and growing inside humanity. And these diodes, these replicating elements are finding their own way into the system to take over neural pathways and musculature and roboticize and, in a sense, transhumanize humans from the inside. It's not just about whether you take a Neuralink chip in your brain or not. There are ways to get rid of this. Look at this, shape-shifting happening in broad daylight. Camera does not lie. And these phenomena are being picked up on cameras all around the world increasingly. And that's to do with the changing of light. This is part of revelation. Black goo. This is also how the Egregor, the archonic realms, become accreted into the 3D temporal plane. It's good stuff. It's not pretty, but it's good that it's happening, because the fact that it's accreting into 3D means we can address it. It's no longer in the basement. It's part of revelation. Look at this. Look at this. There are hyperdimensional physics that explain perfectly what's happening here. And I would love to lecture on this, and I'm going to, when I start doing some touring later this year, I'm going to use this photograph or that piece of footage to explain the hyperdimensional physics. It's taken me a long time. I finally got it. I understand it. It makes total sense. The geometry is perfect of why that phenomena is happening all around the world. And it's not just Superhadron Collider, CERN, activating so-called, God particles and vacuums. It's more complicated. This man is a legend and a hero, Dr. Rainer Klinghardt, okay? He's the man who teaches about how the fluoride molecule, the glyphosate molecule, and the aluminum molecule trigger 6 different chemical responses in the human body that make their way toward the pineal gland. We are all ticking time bombs, each one of us, waiting to be activated. 5G, 6G, 7G plus. These are the activation, okay? Modality. Dream spell. If the media is fake, imagine how bad history is. This comes from This comes from Ben Rich, second director of Lockheed Skunk Works himself, okay? This is in 1993, at an alumni speech at UCLA. We already have means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do, okay? Speak to Foster Gamble about this stuff. He's more of an expert than I am. Michael Tellinger, others who've been on the front line of this aspect of revelation, which is a critical aspect of revelation. But look at that Turkish painting from 1633 with a rocket. You gotta love it. Boom. Okay, the fiction of time. The oldest astronomical clock in the world, still working. I think it's in Prague. Nobody knows how to read it. That's a step backward, guys. Hate to tell you, it's a step back. This is Tartarian architecture all around the world, okay? I've got thousands of images. These are not the best. They're just the ones that I grabbed off my desktop last night. These are images of different epochs that we've seen in the past. Anyone aware of Antarctica, 1912, that expedition? That these are the images that came back from that expedition? All right? Why weren't these published in all of our school books? Why were these not published in our school books 110 years ago? Okay, brace yourselves. This is stuff I'm somewhat involved in. This is Romania, 2003, what was discovered. I'm working with good military guys and intelligence guys in Romania, doing our level best to see if there's a way of bypassing Delta Force, whoever the fuck it is that's got their hands on this base camp, this alien camp. But it's real. This is the Buceci Mountains. These are the photographs that have been leaked from the inside. That pyramid is 200 meters high inside a cave, inside the mountain. Quarter of a kilometer high. Okay? This is not a little pyramid. You have never seen scale like this. I'm doing my best to get taken into this facility, incidentally. I'll be there in a few weeks. Please, please, God, let me get in there. No one knows what this stuff is. No one knows what this technology is. The scale of things is implausible underground. No one understands this iconography. Or if they do, they're not telling. It is so, so bizarre. It speaks to gigantism. It speaks to huge giants. The prime facility in this underground labyrinthine facility is a laboratory. The table is 3 meters high. Meant for giants, not for mortals like us. There's a button that if you put your hand on the button, your DNA resonance activates a holograph that appears in the cupola of the dome, and the story of creation, Cosmogenesis, emerges as a holograph. Depending on whose DNA resonance is activating this technology. It's primed. It's been there for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years. It's activated instantly. And they've, since the good Eagle Scouts in Romania discovered the facility in 2003, I understand that the US Special Ops moved in and locked it in as one of those deep state facilities that no one's allowed to get into. Look at this. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. We don't know what we're looking at. That's the bottom line. Okay, fall of man. Giants, very real, up until very recently. By best accounts, 1850s, 1870s, they started dying out or being killed, being taken out, genetically kind of whitewashed out of the human experiment. But thousands and thousands and thousands of skeletons have been uncovered. You can thank the Smithsonian Institute, the British Museum, and the Vatican Library for sequestering this stuff from our attention, people. I think they're funded by the public purse. I think people should hang by the neck in those institutions for what they've done. I really do. And I don't believe in capital punishment, but this is disgusting. The degree to which our knowledge of ourselves has been kept from us by our own kind is outrageous. These are giants that were around in the last, just over a century ago, and the turn of last century, and they were all around the world, every culture. I have, again, thousands of photographs. And these are not necessarily the best, but they are very indicative of the fact that there was a tremendous amount of gigantism in the human genetic up until last century and the century before. The great exhibitions, you'll know about those. They popped up all around the world. They were the most elaborately designed and architected edifices ever seen on the face of the earth, and they disappeared immediately after the great exhibitions. Miraculously, in London and Paris and Chicago and Philadelphia, all around the world they happened. And we were told by the history books after the fact, no, they were just set up for an exhibition and then taken down. No, they weren't. That was ancient Tartaria that was being taken down. That was Tartarian architecture. The citadel of the Golden Age was being taken down. The Second World War was, much of it was about the takedown of our true Golden Age. They've all disappeared, these incredible edifices. The door thing. Why do you think these doors all around the world, from Hiroshima to Kathmandu, they are all connected to giants? There are libraries and archives of books that have been sequestered from us that were for the giants. It's real. Again, thank you, Vatican. Thank you, Smithsonian. Thank you, British Museum and Royal Geographical Society. Thank you, you Midnight Masons. Thank you. Thank you. Boom. It's all around us. It's all around us. All around us. All of the ancient civilizations speak to the same thing. Classic one example, station in Pennsylvania built in 1910, destroyed 54 years later, and we're told the main reason was for the destruction was cited because of difficulty with upkeep and maintenance and cleaning. And we fall for that. No, that was classic Golden Age Tartarian architecture in the heartland of America up until just over a century ago, and then taken down in broad daylight. In those days when no one questioned government, turn of last century. The trees, no time to go into this here, but the forensics are absolute, absolute. Star holes and these ball and sockets, no one understands them. The stones of Baalbek and other places all around the world, fashioned out of machinery we can't even fathom today. The fall of Great Tartaria, courtesy of Wall Street. I spoke about that already. My hero, Vlad, releases the maps. He just released them in 2013. Of course, we haven't been told that in the West, but he did it as a service to truth and disclosure. The man we would all deride as being the great demon who's murdering Ukrainian babies. Nothing could be further from the truth. The man is the last line of defense and protection for the babies in Ukraine, incidentally. Old world, new world. You see, classic photograph there of the old world. Why did they take down all the classic Tartarian architecture, just leave that shitty little red brick building? Because that's what they did all around the world. All around the world. Last century. In the fog of war. First World War and Second World War was a systematic takedown of our remembrance of our golden age. That building to the right, that is just the top of the building. Guaranteed, that is the top of the building. It is buried hundreds of feet below the ground. We know this. Look at that top left-hand picture, 1900, Paris. It was all taken down. By 2017, look at the skyline in Paris. Friends, it happened in front of us, in front of our grandparents and our great-grandparents. But their noses were against the grindstone, doing a shitty job, working for the man, toil and labor, avoiding the bullets. Okay, no one questioned authority. Blind obedience and acquiescence, that's what it does to us. That building on the right, also buried beneath the ground. Many buildings being unearthed all around the world that are buried underground, many, many stories, some of them hundreds and hundreds of feet. Okay, it's happening all around the world. Classic case in point is Moscow and St. Basil's Cathedral. Classic case in point. There is so much evidence now that that is buried. And what does it look like? It looks like that. But that's what you see. That's what Revelation is about. This is prophecy. This is the biblical revelation. We're living through it. But the degree to which we will be able to see the truth of our world will depend on the collective flaming of our Christ at heart, the courage that we find to stand and defy so-called authority. The star forts, I've spent a lot of time on this. I've spent time in the last year at a star fort. There's one that is about 2 minutes drive from my base in Bacala Laguna in Bali. And they've got old Spanish cannons on the pinpoints of the star. And they say, oh yeah, that was a place to, where we used to fight the pirates. Fuck off. No, it's nothing to do with pirates. Nothing to do with the pirates. Star forts are being discovered all around the world. Thousands of them. Why? Well, let's see. That would be because everyone and their uncle has a household drone now. We can all send our little drones up. We can see down. See, they weren't factoring on that. That's why the Star Fort revelation, because everyone has a drone. Drones, thank you. Thank you to the military-inspired drones, because they've led us to understand that the premise of our cities and our so-called civilizations are based on some cymatics, the alpha and the omega, the language of phase coherence. Why were all of these cathedrals docked? Why have the cathedrals been docked? Because the takedown again of this ancient technology, which was harmonizing this world in our true golden age. The earth is capacitor, and we then designed cities as batteries. All of our cities are batteries. Human beings have been turned into biological batteries. It's ancient, this. It's ancient. That's Barcelona. I've spent a fair bit of time in Barcelona. It's a fascinating place. It's a battery. All cities are batteries. Most of the municipal buildings are batteries. The dielectric antennas on every street corner. We just can't see them. We've blinded ourselves. All of the ancient civilizations in Africa, Southeast Asia, Central South America are all predicated on the same technology, dielectric and paramagnetic interface. That photograph on the right is another one of the slides I would choose just to lecture on for 2 hours, because that is terrific. It really throws under a bus everything we think we know about our so-called civilization and technologies today, okay? Who, what, why, when, where, it's fantastic. I love it. The Nubian anomaly. I'm about to be there. I'll be there in about 12 days, 13 days, something like that. After Su Wong's gala. I wouldn't dream of going to Nubian desert before your gala. But I will be there very soon, courtesy of the military there and the incoming president, who's a good man. And I will be reporting on what I see, if indeed we make it that far into the desert. But 250 pyramids, some of them bigger than the ones in Egypt. This civilization is at least twice as old as Egypt. Why are we not hearing about that? Those constructs in the background are pyramids that have had the tops taken off. Why? Blasted off. Because the dielectric and paramagnetic force coming into these pyramids was probably able to transmit across the whole of Africa. That's just a bit of a guess. I was born sub-Saharan Africa in the Bundu. I used to kick around on the Zimbabwean ruins when I was a boy. And in the mountains of Dombashawa, I felt the paramagnetic forces of Africa. I'm a product of that. Something's going on. Something's going on. We've got to get back to grips with these technologies. I'm about to do big disclosure on this stuff. This is the Sudan NewEarth initiative that we're deeply involved in. I've had to blur out that gentleman's face, so excuse the way he looks, but I'm not allowed to show those faces. But it's very exciting. What I'm telling you firsthand, because I'm involved firsthand, is we're working now with governments at the right level. And they're done. They have had enough of the old Sabbatean hand. They've had enough of the central banksters. They've had enough of the Davos salamanders. The tide is turning. This year is a very important year. Look at this. Dielectric antennas again, powering up the streets of our cities in America. Over 100 years ago, 150 years ago. Why are we not seeing these things in our history books? Why are we not speaking about them? We were driving around 150 years ago in towns and cities on those things. The first successful electric car made its debut in 1890. That's 132 years ago, friends. In 1900, electric cars had become so popular that there was a fleet of electric cars and taxis in New York. Elon? Really? I kind of like the guy, but really? I'm not convinced. Watch
So
this.
the video you see on the screen right now, it's from the 1950s. People speak about anti-gravity. It's not anti-gravity, it's electromagnetic levitation. And it's the type of technology that they had in the Second World War, and of course, way before in the 19th and 18th and 17th centuries. It's what we understand as, wrongly understand as Tartaria or Tartary. It's not that, it's beyond that, it's more than that, but for the sake of understanding, you know, the reset of humanity and what happened to the previous civilization that built the Americas and Europe and what we called.
Move on. This is me. This is the Illuminati. Sacha Stone, the scion of the Illuminati. No, this is a man who almost got killed hacking into the basement. This was the Exemplar Zero initiative, which I tried to launch in the United Nations. I never took a salary. I did accept the role as Director General in the renewable energy sector because I knew that that was my way in to sit down with governments, especially in the Gulf and Africa, to try and bring breakthrough technologies in. That's Dr. David Martin, who worked closely with me on that. We failed. We tried. We failed. That's how glamorous it is, working on these initiatives in my living room in London for months and months and months. No sleep, paying for everything on credit cards, hacking in to the Citadel. We failed in this particular instance, but we didn't really, because I learned so much on the inside that has served the work that I do for sure, and David Martin, I'm certain David feels the same way. This is us. I mean, this is us talking to governments and trying to negotiate real change. It's a long story what happened to us. It was very dangerous at the end, and a bear trap was set up for me. My staff were arrested in a dawn raid in Kuwait City. They thought I was there. Thank God I was in London. And 10 days before the summit, world leaders coming in at my invitation, because I was a Director General, they collapsed my summit and tried to destroy my reputation. And a handful of governments reached out to me. Heads of state reached out and said, thank you, we know exactly what you were trying to do. Brave man. You failed, but we know what you were trying to do, and you've got our support moving forward. I knew that as long ago as 2009, 2010, which is why I say, be careful when you're throwing, rocks at the Citadel. There are good people in power who are really on the inside trying to change things as well. They need us on the outside. Again, this is me taking on the crown in Europe. Dangerous stuff. Got me into a lot of trouble. That got me into a lot of trouble, what you're looking at right now. There was a huge conspiracy to take me down by BBC, Scotland Yard, and judges, High Court judges. Thankfully, it was rumbled. Didn't happen, but they tried. They tried. And that was me trying to warn about 5G. This is the King Solomon's Gold. I decided to come out of the closet on this one. So-called redemption and Nisara. I've been involved since before 2005 on this. That's 17 years ago. I know the story. I met the Dove of Oneness. She flew in to meet me in England many, many, many years ago. She wouldn't set foot on British soil, so I had to go into Heathrow Airport to meet her off the plane, have a meeting for 3 or 4 hours, and then she flew out again after showing me photographs and satellite maps. And I knew about the FEMA death camps and what was being set up a long, long, long time ago. It's why I've taken it so seriously over the years. I've been involved here in trying to get the redemption. This was when I was summoned to meet with A1M1, who is one of the dragons, a beautiful man. He's not the alpha, that's for sure. And that's some of the historical gold in front of me there. That was a 2,000-mile journey, which also almost got us popped. It was not fun. He's a powerful man. I've got it on film. One day I'm going to release the film. Every time he opens his mouth, the thunder starts to roll. You tell me how that works, because I don't know. I don't know. But this is real shit. This is some of the stuff I've directly been involved with. I'm done taking rocks at the head, so I've decided to come out of the closet just a little bit on some of this stuff. This is the NewEarth Festival in 2019, where I brought together the kingdoms and sultanates of Southeast Asia for the first time in their history. Never happened before. This happened under NewEarth's banner and the work of Humanitat. It's what we've been doing quietly. There's no glory in this. There's certainly no money. Cost us a fortune, almost crippled me. But we do it because it's important to do this stuff. Del Big Tree came out. I think he's speaking here later today. Oh, bless that. I love that man. God damn, I want to give you a hug. So Del was there. Del was there. It was a beautiful day, was it not? You arrived late from the airport. I do remember. That's the King of Kings, the holder of the seal, King Samu, beautiful, beautiful soul, who afforded us the protection for that event. Yes, that is me being formally inducted with great honor. I accepted that. I had no choice, mind you, but that was me being thanked. I've not released these pictures before, and I don't really intend to speak too much about them after this fact, but I'm honored to have spent over 2 decades of my life working on redemption where it matters, to try to resurrect the hereditary leaders, the true kingly and noble lines of the angelic humans. They've got to come back in, and then they can step aside, and we stand up. But first, we get rid of the corporation. The parent corporation needs to stand down. So I've dealt with this. I think I've met over 200 kings and queens and sultans in my life, which is more than any man should ever have to put up with. But a lot of them very good souls. That's me on the right there, looking very, very nervous, because I genuinely feared an assassin's bullet that night. Not for me, but if any one of those sultans had been shot, and that was the place to aim a bullet. But we were protected by a lot of plasma, I think, by a lot of light. Oops. There's Del there. Dr. Sandra, is she here? Gotcha. Okay, I'll see you later today. There's the Bishop of Jerusalem to my right, who sent a beautiful message to me this morning. He's offered his protection over many, many years. And G. Edward Griffin there on the left. That was our World Health Sovereignty Summit, which, again, Del, myself, G. Edward, a number of people came out warning the world about the weaponization of the biosphere, which is exactly what we're dealing with today. Okay, there's Del. And there's G. Edward Griffin, 2 icons, true leadership. True leadership. This is a first, and I hope I don't get into trouble. This is Spiritual Wonder Boy. I think he would forgive me for publishing a photograph of him. He is the most royal individual on the face of the earth. There is no one who carries more tutelage than he does. He's humble. His hair reaches almost to the ground. He's an extraordinary embodiment. His code name is Spiritual Wonder Boy, and his DNA is the DNA that will stand down the Federal Reserve and the US Treasury eventually, when the good guys in the basement have managed to secure the positions appropriately. And I love him. He's come and spent time with me and his staff at my place in Bali, and I'm honored to have met him. He's one of a number of these extraordinary, enigmatic, almost otherworldly characters that I've had the great honor to spend time with in private over the last 2 decades. One of them is a human rainbow. Rainbows come out of him, and I've been in his presence, and I have photographs, and I'm not going to be showing those photographs. But there is stuff going on in the human blood, which I'll get to in a moment. I'll try and make sense of what I've just said in a moment. Bear with me. Just a nod in the direction of my erstwhile favorite son of a bitch, Robert David Steele, who I still miss. He did go rogue on me. I forgive him for that. I thought it would happen. It did. Thank you to the Middle America for supporting the Arise tour. Scott McKay, myself, and Lee Dundas finished it. There's Scott. He'll be flying in to join me in about a week's time here for a few days. I launched the Arise Guerrilla News Network really as my payload, because I said that I would at the end of that tour and keep the voice going, and we've done, where's my producer Joanne? She's here. We've done thousands of hours of frontline stuff. It does not pay people. It costs us to run this network. But the point I'm making is it matters. Speaking matters. I'm doing Regenesis retreats here and there, and that's just to bring voices like David Icke and Kathy O'Brien, a beloved friend. And Kathy, I know she'll be watching this. I love you, girl, madly. A lot of great and good people participating in the retreats. They're virtual, they're available online, but I'm also doing some physical retreats, and I'm very honored to be working with some great souls. The New Covenant. Stop obeying. Stop acquiescing. Stop paying coin to Caesar. Taxes. You see, now this is where it gets difficult. And yes, I'm looking at all of you. Yeah, I'm looking at you unabashedly, unashamedly. And I'm not going to go beyond in my berating. But shame on you, okay? Let me explain. Let me explain. I've tried to set up the backdrop of this narrative today to show you what taxes do, okay? All the evil and the witchery that you just saw in those screens is paid for by your lifeblood. Your toil, your time and motion equates to coin to Caesar, equates to taking a knee to Caesar. Do not take a knee to Caesar. There are ways and ways, people, of not paying coin to Caesar. Take the time to find out. Russell J. Gould, there are a number of different ways. We're teaching very successfully with the NewEarth University. We have 2 High Court judges as students in our law academy right now, taking lessons from Bibi Bacchus on UCC, okay? And those judges hacked in because they had seen some of our students come into their courtrooms, beating them at law. And they wanted to know what was going on. And these are good judges. And they've come forward. We may have even more judges still masquerading as students. These 2 have come forward. I believe one's from America. No, sorry, one's from Finland and one's from Scotland. And they've come forward and said, hey, we're High Court judges. Thank you. Thank you for teaching us about law. So there is a tide that's turning. That's what I'm saying. Stop delegating your authority. Stop offering your babes to Baal. Okay? Get them out of schools if you can. Get out of the citadel. Get out of Sodom and Gomorrah if you can. Stop violating your conscience. Stop being so damn polite. The restoration of natural justice, I'm not going to go into this right now, just to say that matters as well. That is hurt. Setting that up and keeping that going. Giving a voice to the voiceless, inspiring faith in good leaders. We've had secretaries of state. We've had powerful people attend. Chiefs of police come in. Commissioners come in and give testimony in our court. It works. Okay, that's me addressing the Lithuanian Parliament in 2016, and the now former defense minister apprehended me that same night when I arrived in Vilnius, and said, "You're not coming in. You're not going to check into your hotel. You're a dead man walking." Put me in a safe house. The following morning, I was allowed to go in and address the Parliament there, sitting there in my little red tie. And that was to meet with prosecutors, parliamentarians, and good people, powerful people who wanted a law strategy to overthrow the satanic government that had overtaken their country and was selling them to the devil with the European Central Bank. And they did not want me or the ITNJ in there, and that's what they did to me. 3 days later, I was zapped in a hotel room at 3 in the morning. And I was poisoned. It took 3 months off my life and was not a lot of fun, I can tell you. Being zapped with a weapon system that's triggered by best account through the electromagnetic frequency set that's sent from the apparatus at that time in 2016 that was in Norway was a test bed for 5G. That's why I became passionate about 5G, because I was a victim, attempted a victim of assassination by the early test bedding of that system. And this is real. You live through that shit for 3 months, you come out stronger. And I made the 5G Apocalypse film because of what happened to me. And again, had the defense minister, had I listened to him and gone home for 6 months as he urged me to do, I wouldn't have been zapped. I'm glad I was zapped. I'm glad it almost took me down, because I learned what I had to learn. 5G Apocalypse, the extinction event, it's all about weaponization of the biosphere. Somewhere in Burma, I was saved after 3 months of turning into a blue and yellow frog. I was saved not by any medicine, because there was no medicine that could redeem what was happening to me, but somewhere in Burma, there were some people. One of them is a living saint living in Turkey, who's going to be taking me fairly soon to Göbekli Tepe for some real revelations there, incidentally. But this group of very advanced souls did the interventions on me and came in with a remote plasma beam and literally healed me. And when I say literally healed me, that was 72 hours later, the before and after. 72 hours. And that was, 35, it was 60, 90. It was 90 minutes of plasma beam hitting me over 3 days. And I went from being that to being Superman. For me, that's Superman. This is a guy connected to the group that did the healing on me. It was a great master in Nepal. And I'm getting to this because I'm now going to talk about the mechanics of ascension. Okay, the bit we really want to know about. And this is where he lives, in that valley. And he comes out every 2 years for a couple of days only, stands in the mercury fire, is untouched by the mercury flame, and then he performs darshan, blessing, on people. I intend to meet him the next time he comes out. He is over 120 years old. I'm so sorry, guys, I'm so sorry. This is going to have to be edited by my editor. He's over 1,120 years. I'm so sorry. I got my completely wrong. This man is the oldest creature that we know on the face of the earth. Now, I can tell you, and I hope I don't get into trouble with my Moroccan friends, but I can tell you that the royal family in Morocco, who I've known for over 20 years, are members of that family in the Maghreb. I was taken up to the Atlas Mountains 20 years ago by the royals, by 3 of the princes, to meet with their oracle, the oracle of the royal family, who's over 800 years old. Okay? That's well known to them. And it's not that exceptional to live for 800 years, 1,000 years of age. There are plenty of the so-called immortals alive. That's the point I'm trying to make here. There are plenty of souls that are well over 1,000 years old. This is one of them. This is the chap who lives in Burma. So what does this tell us? To dream wisely. That's it. Just that. What we think and what we ideate will manifest into the field. This is Dr. Peter Garrioff. I want to honor this man. He is the progenitor of linguistic wave genetics, which is the mechanics of empathy, how we heal people remotely. I was saved. My life was saved by best accounts because of linguistic wave genetics. He's the first scientist who could explain it to me. And he died, alas, I think a little over a year ago. Remarkable man. His institute continues, and we're working with them. I'm working closely with this man, Professor Florian Kolchiak. Dan Winter, if you're watching this, I'm going to apologize, but you've just been bumped. He is the cleverest man on earth here. You're the cleverest, kind of zany clever. This guy is fucking clever, deep, weird mathematics clever. Professor Florian Kolchiak, I urge you people, do not ever look into this man's eyes. You fall into this creature's soul. He came out to Mexico for a week last year, and I've been into his home in Bucharest, outside Bucharest, on a couple of occasions, sitting with him behind his computers. He has perfected the universal genome, what he calls the universal genome. It is an algorithm, friends. We communicate directly to the Akashic field with his algorithm. We can communicate directly to the Godhead. We need supercomputation. This is where the good application of computation comes in. Right now, using his algorithm, we can put a question, and I've done it on a few occasions, put a question to God, to the Akashic. We wait for the computers to do the processing, and back comes an answer in universal syntax, perfect syntax. You tell me how that works. It is staggering. It is the most extraordinary revelation I've witnessed. I burst into tears when it first happened. And all I can tell you is that we're working on this right now. We're also developing our own supercomputer in Romania, courtesy of the good military intelligence and academic guys that we're very much involved with, because this man has now discovered the algorithm that will end rotten government and corruption. We can create a telephone booth that you can walk into. You can walk into that telephone booth before you get to the voting booth, and it will electrographically read your soul, your personality, your character. And if you are not equipped to become a high court judge, you will not become a judge. If you cannot police people, you will not become a policeman. If you cannot be a civic leader or a congressional leader, you will not make it, because the voice of God, the Akashic field, registers and says, no, you're ill-equipped, you don't have the character. And it's all data, it's hard data. I can't go into more right now. I will be doing a big lecture on that and putting it on the web, and I'll be working closely with Professor Florian over the next 3 years when we intend to reach the fulmination of that project. This is part of my beautiful team in our offices in Romania, where we're developing multiple proprietary zero-point energy systems. We have 3 that are functioning right now. Plasma propulsion for aerospace, vortex water desalination. This is Stone Age technology, but we're putting it out. Artificial muscles with Casimir effect, liquid graphene armor, bipedal androidal technologies, 3D ionic disk drives. It goes on and on and on. I'm not trying to swing a dick here. What I'm saying is there are good military intelligence people. There are good engineers that are coming out of the basement. We set up a protectorate, which I've been doing for nearly 20 years. I've earned my currency here, my credits. We've created a protectorate for good military scientists and engineers and mathematicians to come out from the old order of the Soviet and the Eastern Europe and so on, some in America as well. Okay, that's all it is. And saying, hey, family, you sat on your algorithms and your equations for 50 years, 40 years, because you knew you didn't want to hand them up to the guys upstairs. Now you can bring those technologies and innovations out. We'll finance them. We'll get them to market. So we're doing our best. We've raised some money. We're in prototyping. Some of it's here. Boom. I'm not going to play this whole thing, but it's just lovely dealing with these old guys till the end. End to end.
What exactly is this?
It's a new kind of generator who have not starter. Any device, electric, motor or generator,
I'm sorry, I don't have time. I've got 50 minutes left. I've been going. So, Mechanics of Ascension, boom, we're releasing this. I think this is coming out this year. This is a DNA scanner. We can now scan your DNA and tell you everything that's wrong with you. Genetically, your predisposition, there is no longer guesswork involved. I think that eradicates about 75% of the entire quadrillion-dollar infrastructure of the medical science fraternity right there. Right. And it's real, and it works. Okay, some of the LifePod stuff that we're working on, the prototyping right now, this is real. We've got the tech. I've experienced it. It's magnificent. We're designing and building like this. I'll be speaking a great deal more about this year. I'll be getting very vocal by midsummer. Dr. Christina Rom, check it out. The root stuff. Yep, good woman, man. Talk about cleaning up Vax injury. That, boom, that's what's happening to human blood. That's what's happening to human blood. We are impacting with the vibral light field right now. It's happening incrementally, exponentially. We are returning to the angelic, whether we like it or not. And all of the witchery and bedevilment of our age is the contrast against which we are defining that emergent spirit, okay? It's all perfect. This woman here, Maria Chrysler with alphabet soup after her name. I'm working closely with her, and we're launching this month, I think it is. Regenesis formula, and it is unbelievable. It's taken a year and a half or something like that. I managed to persuade her and one of the other top labs in the world to come together to create a unique proprietary formula because of the magic I'd seen with these 2 different formulas. They've managed to do the blend, or at least Maria's done it with the work of the Europeans, and we're very, very excited. My dream has been to have nothing more than that in my pocket wherever I go in the world, and not to have to take anything else or worry about anything else. And I think we've cracked it. There'll be a lot more on that. You can go to sachastone.com to find out about it. I am an absolute whore when it comes to promoting this, because reclaiming our DNA and our cells is all I care about, okay? Right. And this is what we're doing with the formula. We can eradicate flesh-eating streptococcus, okay? 21 days. Skin regrowth in 24 hours. Hair growth, 1 month. It's happening. 5 years later, This woman on the right is 5 years after the picture on the left. So she's reversed aging by probably 10 to 15 years in 1 year's intake. We've done our clinical studies. Okay. Last thing I'm playing to you. This is my big project. This is where my heart is right now. Boom. Just 2 minutes. This is in Baca La Laguna in Mexico, in the Yucatan. I just came from there 3 days ago. We've got about 18 people in our core team now on the ground. We had some zany characters hacked in a few months ago. We managed to flush them out. We're good. We're in the saddle, and we start building probably end of April, spades in the ground. But we're very excited. Agroforestry, syntropic agroforestry, developing a zero-point economy. Stunningly beautiful place to be. The most highly activated water anywhere on the face of the earth outside of Lake Baikal in Russia that I'm aware of. We're deploying our bioarchitecture, spatial dynamics, spatial harmonics, places that the cells love to live in. I'm building about 500 homes in this residential sanctuary over the next 5 years, and then we'll cap the project at that. We're deploying our own microgrids and all the technologies that we can negotiate into position. But we're excited, and we carry the grace of God in this project without any doubt. And we're returning to the dielectric antennas as well on the buildings because we have certain plans. That's all I'm going to say. I've designed this as our HQ for the spa and retreat center and place of Regenesis of the human genome. So we've got Maria Chrysler and Dr. Christina Rahm, many scientists and doctors from around the world are on board with us, physicists and remarkable visionaries. And this is also a secure place to get money out of banks and into land banking, because that's also critical right now. People have to do it. The reset is happening almost certainly by Q3 this year. Don't let the banks evaporate your money. That's my message to anyone and everyone. We've got to invest in the soil. We've got to put money back into the sacred soil. My favorite saying of all: if the prayer is fashioned aright, it'll be answered by the God in your own heart. And really, all of the abomination of religiosity and spirituality, so-called spirituality and religiosity, could be broken down into just this. You don't need the Gnostics. You don't need the scriptures. No disrespect to the scriptures. You don't need the written word. They're spells and bonds. Words are bonds and spells. Always were, can only ever be thus. But if the prayer is fashioned aright in the Christed heart, in the angelic heart, it will be answered by the God in your own heart. You do carry all of the protection of this world and beyond. And we have to know it. We have to embody it. We have to enact it, and we have to manifest it. And I would leave you with one message, which I will even distill that wordy little phrase. I'll distill it even further for those amongst you like me who are very simple of heart and mind. And I will remind you that the geometry of now, right this moment, is perfect always, in all ways. Thank you. You disappoint me. I thought you'd be mad that I went through so much stuff. Actually, hold that for a second, because stay there for 1 second. I got to get this for posterity for myself, please. One moment. One moment. Don't let go yet. You're very sweet. Right, we're going live. We're going live. Whoa. Yes. Opening connection. Oh, we're live. We're going live. Look at my beautiful people. Thank you. Thank you at home. You can catch up with us later. I'm going to turn you off. Bye now. Thank you all.
You know what? He would love to talk. He would love to ask me. I don't think.
No, I have WhatsApp. Oh, yeah.
Come on, he's right here.
Oh, yeah, I have to add you to my contacts. Or I'll let you do it. Yeah, here. Easy. It's okay. He said it's okay. Okay, what's your name? My name is Anna. No, I know you're Anna. Her.
Okay. You're not Raquel. I thought you were.
No, I think you meant yeah, but you want to say today. But I think, wait, what's your name? Mary.
No, you know, if it's today, it just be with me.
Oh, okay. Because he said for you guys.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, so do you know what time, just so I have it advanced? Or you can text me.
Yeah. Because he's got another 5 p.m.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
You're lucky you got it. And you're going to be here. I live in this area, but
Thank you so much. My bag's down here.